Paul, it's hardly Freedom Day, is it?
Well, it's good news though, Peter. We're expecting to be released from the restrictions that we've known over the past couple of weeks, and that'll be good news for everybody once they're
something,
announced.
something better
Yeah,
than
that's
nothing.
right. It is.
Okay, so in what state is business going to emerge from this, Paul?
Battered and bruised. Financial reserves are gone, emotional reserves are gone. So that's why today's news has to be good. And then hopefully, following today's news, there'll be further announcements on support to enable businesses to make the right decision to keep going. When you think about the hospitality sector, they haven't taken income for the large part of this month,
Mm.
yet they're going to be forced to face restocking fees. And rent is due in less than a week now as well. So we need to see some financial support coming from, hopefully both the state and federal governments for this one.
Yes, there is that lag, isn't there? Businesses don't just bounce back. It can take weeks, sometimes even months, sometimes even longer than that.
Yeah, that's right. And this one particularly, Peter, we came out of lockdown four. There was in some cases less than a week for the larger venues to then go straight into lockdown five. So,
Mm.
across the board, it's been really difficult outside of the manufacturing construction sectors, which have been able to operate. Pretty much every other part has been compromised through lockdown four and five. So, what we need is a great announcement today in terms of let's get things going. And there is some positive news there. We're seeing differences from the past where, beauty and gyms look like they're going to be open. Hospitality looks like it's coming back at higher limits than what we might have thought as well. So a business across the board should get some good news today, but it also needs to be supported with a financial package to help businesses through.
What do you need that to be, Paul?
Well, in the first instance, help with the restocking fee, and then some certainty around rent being able to be paid for the next month. Most businesses pay rent in advance, so
Yeah.
the August rent will be due in less than a week, and it's tough if there's no financial reserves and you haven't been able to take income. Where are you going to find the money for that?
What federal help do you need? I mean, there's a report in the Australian Financial Review this morning suggesting that the federal treasurer may well be open to increasing the amount of support to businesses and perhaps even getting back to the initial or original stages of JobKeeper. Would you like to see that?
Yeah, we'd support any financial package that gets directed at businesses and the workers. Look, the federal treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, has been fabulous over the past period, coming to the support of Victorian workers and businesses. The state government continue to put their hand in their pocket to support businesses as well. What we're asking for is the two to come together again and provide the certainty through financial packages that businesses will need to be able to get back on their feet again.
Would that irritate you, though, if this extra federal support came particularly for New South Wales businesses after you've been released from lockdown?
Not really. This is evolving all the time, and what we're seeing is an evolving response to it as well. Look, I think everybody hoped when JobKeeper finished back in March that was going to be the end of the pandemic. It's not. It's proved the case. We're now seeing, a fair portion of the Australian population in lockdowns over the past couple of weeks. We know it doesn't get any better until the vaccine rolls out at greater numbers. So, I think we have to get better at making sure that we provide support for businesses in the time that they need it until vaccination rates are at a level where we can sustain the virus spread.
And what about state help? Is that enough?
The state has been pretty good in terms of putting their hand in their pocket to support businesses. Look, it's never enough to replace the true income that business would receive in terms of profit, but it's enough to keep business sustained. What we're seeing now is that there are no financial reserves left. We need to give businesses certainty through financial support, and we hope to hear about that in the next day or two.
It seems as though, quite possibly right up until Christmas, Paul, that there's going to be restrictions in place in some capacity. Do you agree with that sentiment? Is that something that businesses would have to expect?
Yeah, I think that's right, Peter. I mean, sadly, most business owners wake up every day wondering if they're going to be able to trade the full day out, if they're going to be able to trade tomorrow, and what restrictions are going to be in place. Look, such is the devastation that the COVID virus has wreaked. We know National Cabinet has agreed that zero is the number. So as a spread starts, we can expect to see lockdowns occurring. I don't think this will be the last, sadly. So if we can get the responses tailored so that if we're going in quick, we're coming out quick with financial support, then I think we can sustain it until the vaccine has rolled out to a fair proportion of the population.
And that's not going to be until the end of the year. So how do you explain that psychology and that mental hit for business?
Well, where the times are good, we've got to make the hay, as they say. So,
Yes.
now that we've quashed this virus again, the second time that Victoria's quashed the Delta virus, let's use that clear air to enable businesses to trade so that they can take the income that they need, such that if we get another outbreak, then at least we've got some money in the bank. But ultimately, it's how do we keep the Delta virus out?
Have you got any data, Paul, on the amount of closures that have taken place in Melbourne
And
in particular
Yeah,
recently?
not yet, but
Yeah.
the signs for lease are sadly increasing at a rate of knots. The feedback we had from a survey we did with our Victorian Chamber members last week was just a nightmare read. Businesses are on the edge. There's no money left. The financial reserves are gone. The emotional reserves, which is probably even tougher when you're hearing
Yeah.
about businesses that have spent all their lives building it up to this point, seeing it washed away. So there's no good news in this at all. The hope is that we get the financial support and businesses have the confidence to keep going through.
Yeah, and who in their right mind would open up a business from scratch in this climate? That's not happening, is it?
Yeah, it's not at the numbers that we need. There
Yeah.
are some small sort of at-home businesses that are doing it, and sole traders that are starting. But we need to see the end of COVID. The way we'll do that is through vaccination. So if you can get vaccinated, please get vaccinated. Then hopefully by the end of the year, we're in a position to have a bloody good Christmas and then get on with
I agree with
2022.
you. Brilliant stuff. Paul Guerra, always good to chat to you, the CEO of the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Peter.